Yo, what's up guys, Alf here, and today I'm going to be doing additional gameplay for the Echoes Eldrazi list that I recently posted about. So I'm not going to cover how this deck works in this video because I've already got a video up that has a full deck guide explaining everything about the deck and has some gameplay as well. This video is basically additional gameplay of the deck so you guys can see more of the deck in action, and also just a quick update that I've made to the deck since that last video, just in the sideboard. So originally I had Stone Rain in the sideboard to board in the mirror match against Eldrazi variants that weren't running Fleshraker and Linebreaker of their own, because typically if they are running Fleshraker, Linebreaker, I want to keep Dismember in. And additionally, if they're also running Sire of 7 Deaths, I also like keeping Dismember in because that gives us a way to just, you know, trade with it in combat. The opponent is always going to attack with Sire of 7 Deaths because it has Vigilance. So if you have, you know, a 3 toughness creature like a Linebreaker or a Mycospawn Spawn in play, you can block, then Dismember the Sire, assuming you have enough life to pay for the double Phyrexian mana and the 7 life on top of that, which you usually do in Eldrazi mirror matches, as long as you haven't been hit by it a few times already. And then you can just destroy the Sire in combat, whereas outside of that, we don't really have that many great ways to deal with it. So Stone Rain in the sideboard was basically for Eldrazi variants that weren't running Fleshraker, Linebreaker, or Sire of 7 Deaths. Now, having said that, most of those variants were Simic builds, and since I posted this list, I have seen an increase in Torpor Orb, which is fairly effective against our deck because it shuts off the ping from Fleshraker and it shuts off the ETB on Faceless Agent. Doesn't shut off Linebreaker, so we can still go Echoes and Linebreaker to win against Torpor Orb, so it's not a complete blowout, but I felt like the number of times I was bringing in Stone Rain against Eldrazi variants wasn't that high. We're also not running Ugin's Labyrinth, so our only ways of casting Stone Rain on turn 2 are off Utopia Sprawl and Ignoble Hierarch. So because of the shift towards more Torpor Orb, I've decided going forwards that it's probably much better to be running Thief of Existence in the sideboard, and then if the opponent is running Torpor Orb or they're running an Eldrazi variant where we don't want Dismember, we can just bring in Thief of Existence as an answer to it that we can also cast on turn 2 because of Eldrazi Temple. We can double up on the effect with Echoes of Eternity. We can find it off the Faceless Agent. Now, you might think 4 is quite a lot just to answer Torpor Orb, but all of those decks will be running non-creature ramp cards as well, like Utopia Sprawl, a Talisman, Mind Stone, Solar Transformer. So having this as a turn 2 play that just gets on the board to apply pressure and interrupts the opponent's ramp is also very effective. So I think for the mirror match, whilst Torpor Orb is seeing play, especially in those Simic builds where we don't really want Dismember, Thief of Existence just seems much better to me than Stone Rain. So I think going forwards, this is definitely a good change. If you're not interested in running the full 4 copies, I would advise running a single copy of Blast Zone as well, if you don't want to run, you know, the full play set. And then we can tutor it off Sowing Mycospawn as another card that's very good, especially against the Lurrus decks like Energy and Auras as well. So that's another card to consider if you don't want to run the full playset. But I definitely think going forward, the Thief of Existence is a better sideboard card in this build than Stone Rain. So anyway, like I said, the rest of this video is just going to be a bunch of gameplay that I had recorded. Now, all of this gameplay I recorded before I published the first video, which I'll have a link to down in the description if you haven't checked it out. If you're not familiar with this deck, definitely recommend doing that first. But all of that gameplay will have the older sideboard with Stone Rain. So yeah, just going forwards, I recommend going for Thief of Existence. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the additional gameplay. If you've got any questions or comments about the deck at all, definitely let me know in the comments. I'll also be putting a set review out for Through the Omen Paths for Historic in the next couple days before that set drops as well. So keep your eyes open for that. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Big up. Okay, so we're going second tier. And, I mean, I think we've got to keep this right. We've got Sprawl on 1 into Agent on 2. We've got Colorless Mana off the Vista, so if we tutor for a Linebreaker or a Fleshraker off these Faceless Agents, we should be able to cast it. So obviously lead on the Utopia Sprawl on turn 1 here, and I think we'll go green since we already have access to red mana off these Sprawls. Stomping Grounds. Oh, we got Spell Pierce, okay. So that makes me think we're probably against Dimir Frog here. Yeah, okay, Thought Scour, so likely on Unearth, a Brunt Oculus. Wow, okay, they kept a 1 land. I mean, that's huge for us, right? Basically just time walk the opponent here. So we get the Utopia Sprawl in play, and now we have Mycospawn for next turn. So even if they just play a counter spell here, we should be good. They tap out for Psychic Frog, which is a bit of a concern. Although we do find Echoes, that's pretty nice. So now we can set up for Echoes next turn, and if they do tap out, getting like an Oculus in play, we can then just slam Echoes, and outside of a bounce spell, like maybe an Otawara, which they typically don't run in very high numbers, or maybe a Sink into Stupor, they basically have no way of removing Echoes once it's in play. So if we can get them to tap out here, get an Echoes in play, we've got 3 Faceless Agents in hand. So, okay, there is the Oculus. So presumably they have an Unearth here to do that. Yeah, there's the Unearth. Really hope they don't have a counterspell here as well. Oh, okay. Thoughtseize essentially does the same thing here, right? They have to take the Echoes. So that's a little bit rough. But they are tapped out, so if we just draw another Echoes here, we're golden, right? Okay, they pitch Persist, and they pitch Counterspell. Okay, so, I mean, this is a good play from the opponent, right? They're clearly struggling on lands, but they have a fast clock here, right? They're getting for 4 in the air. They have 9 in the air next turn. Thankfully, I don't think they'll have enough cards to make Psychic Frog lethal yet, but, you know, we are on the clock here. Okay, so I think we have to lead on the Rumble here. Just because, you know, we could hit an Echoes, we could hit a Line Breaker or a Flesh Raker. Okay, Micah Spawn's not the worst, because then we can go Micah Spawn, get an Eldrazi Temple, cast Faceless Agent, but without any flying blockers and losing that Echoes was the thing that really did us in here, right? If they didn't have that Thoughtseize, then we obviously go Echoes, and then we can just win off the Faceless Agent into Line Breaker lines. But I mean, having said that, if we can find multiple Line Breakers here, there's a chance that we can just force lethal through next turn. Okay, there's one Line Breaker. That could potentially do it. Because they can attack in the air, right, but they can only make Psychic Frog a 7 power creature here, right, which is 1 short of lethal. So I think we should survive here. And if they do attack him with Psychic Frog and Naboran Oculus, they'll likely only have 2 2/2s in play, but, you know, if they have an untapped blue source, they could have a counterspell here potentially. Wow, they're going all in by the looks of it. So they put us down to 1 here, but we do have the Line Breaker. I don't know if it'll be enough to deal lethal though, is the issue, right? Plus they obviously get to draw a card here, so if we can just naturally draw another Line Breaker, I think we're good. Okay, Dismember ain't going to do it, unfortunately, but we do have Faceless Agent, which can find another Line Breaker, but we're 1 mana short of casting it. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think we do lose this one, which is a little bit rough, because I thought we had a good chance with the hand we had. I think if we keep that Echoes of Eternity, we're good. So, obviously, we'll just attack in here with everything. Force the blocks, potentially, and then hopefully we'll get a bit more information about what cards they're running, right? Because the... you know, we get to see what cards they manifested when they go to the graveyard here. But yeah, they'll just win next turn, unfortunately. Okay, Unearth the Naboran Oculus, so yeah. Unfortunately, didn't get that one, but it was pretty close. So definitely want the Surgicals here for sure. And, I mean, maybe we should bring in Bojuka Bog as well, but I just think it's a little bit too slow, honestly. And, you know, Bojuka Bog isn't very particularly effective against Psychic Frog. So, yeah, to be fair, I have been thinking about cutting the Bog for a 3rd Surgical Extraction, just because I feel like Bog is just too slow against the matchups where we want it, really. Like this, we really want to be able to, you know, stop them unearthing on turn 2 or 3. Which Bojuka Bog is usually too slow, especially if we're on the draw. Plus, obviously, you know, I've seen an increase in Reanimator recently since I posted the deck guide video, so... By the way, I mean, this hand is a little bit slow because we don't have a play on turn 1, we don't have an Eldrazi Temple either, but we've got, you know, Malevolent Rumble on turn 2, which is always strong. I'm going to lead on the Prismatic Vista here just to get a colourless land in play so that we can get Kozilek's Command online a little sooner if we, you know, especially if we do draw another colourless source like an Eldrazi Temple here. So opponent Shocks in the Watery Grave could be Fatal Push, could be Spell Pierce. I don't think it's worth waiting to go for the Rumble here, to be honest. Oh, okay. So we find a Mirex, which is really nice, because if they don't have Psychic Frog and they are, you know, they have got a counterspell heavy hand, then we could just potentially go with Mirex, but... Oh, or Thought Scour. Whoops, yeah, I forgot about that one. But yeah, I mean, Mirex is not as effective in this matchup as it is compared to... you know, against the high noon decks, for example. But it is still definitely useful to have. So they tap out for Psychic Frog, which is huge for us here, because now we can Kozilek's Command X equals 2. You know, thankfully, we drew the Mirrex, which is another permanent colour source, but even if we hadn't, we have the spawn token which we could use here. So I am going to go for it. Maybe there's an argument to shocking the Stomping Ground here rather than just putting the Mirrex in play, but with a Forest and a Stomping Ground, I don't think we're really going to need the Mirrex to fix our colours here. Okay, so they do have an Unearth in hand, or we did see Persist last game as well. Interesting they pitch a land as well. That's a little bit confusing. Okay, there is Persist. And maybe I'm supposed to use Dismember there. But I kind of want to kick the Sowing Mica spawn instead here. And then we can Dismember off the land, and we cut them off mana, which is pretty huge. So I think I like waiting, they get a 2-2 out of the deal, but this way we deny them a mana and still kill the Oculus, right? We trade one of their lands for a 2-2, which seems like a good exchange, especially this early in the game. And then I'm hoping since we cut them off a land, we can get them to tap out here, potentially. Oh, wow, Barrow Goyf, interesting. But yeah, now we just get to slam Echoes of Eternity, and I very much doubt they've got answers for it, considering they could have another Sink into Stupor, I guess, which would be pretty rough. Definitely going to block here, because we just don't want them to start getting value off the Barrow Goyf, and then even if they have a counter spell here, then we should, get another blocker in play at the very least. Okay, perfect. I was going to say, I really hope that we get another colourless spell, and then, this basically guarantees the win here, right? And it doesn't look like they have any interaction either. Arena's giving away priority, so now we cast the Faceless Agent, and that should be more than enough to just ping them to death with the Fleshraker here, which is really nice. And obviously would set up for another Eldrazi to cast afterwards as well. So yeah, managed to get their game 2. That felt a lot better. Again, don't want the Bojuka Bug. And yeah, I think, having thought about it, I'll probably replace that Bojuka Bug with a third Surgical, because I just feel like Bojuka Bug is too slow in the matchups where we want it. All of the heavier graveyard decks are all very quick, right? I mean, I think we've got a mulligan this, right? If we had an Eldrazi Temple, then maybe we can keep that one. This one looks better, and I'm just trying to debate whether we want to put back a Stomping Ground or a Rumble here. I'm going to put back... I mean, obviously drawing a land makes me, want the Rumble a little bit more rather than the Stomping Ground, but with Spell Pierce, I feel like there's a chance Utopia Sprawl gets countered, there's a chance that Rumble gets countered, and I wanted to ensure I had the third land for the Line Breaker. So now we can get the Line Breaker down. They do have Consign. I was going to say, they don't have mana up for actual counterspell, but they could still have Consign there, obviously. Aha, Emperor of Bones. Okay, Eldrazi Temple's a nice pickup here. So we can go Rumble and Eldrazi... sorry, what am I saying? We can go Rumble plus Line Breaker here, which is what I'm going to try and do. Right, we'll see if they've got another Consign. Yeah, okay, looks like they do. So we lose the Line Breaker. Now I am regretting putting back the land over the Rumble, but, had we not drawn lands, then it would just be the opposite, right? And we find another land here, which is pretty rough. Hoping... Oh, okay. At least we waste them a Thoughtseize, though. And it looks like they're struggling for black mana, right? They don't have enough mana to adapt the Emperor of Bones, even if they wanted to here. Cycling the Unearth. So it looks like the opponent has a slightly awkward start as well, which is obviously good for us. And thankfully they haven't got great targets to adapt on the Emperor of Bones yet. So I don't think we want to block here in case we draw Echoes. Oh, okay. That's perfect. Kozak's Command is so nice here. So I think we definitely want to exile the Emperor of Bones, and then we definitely want to scry and draw, right? We don't need any extra mana here. We just need to find gas. So, I mean, we could go for the max X value here, but if we go for X equals 2, then we can potentially cast what we draw here. If we find a Line Breaker or a Faceless Agent or a Fleshraker, so... Okay, we do find a Fleshraker, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, maybe we're supposed to, since we have so much mana and not enough gas, maybe we're supposed to go for the max scry value just to ensure that we keep drawing well, but Fleshraker is nice with the Mirexes here, because not only does it, allow us to pump tokens out against a deck that is largely going to be full of single target removal, I think. It also enables us to start pinging the opponent and just putting them on a faster clock. Okay, so opponent has Thought Scour and Thoughtseize. I mean, I guess the advantage of drawing badly is that it makes you kind of invulnerable to the opponent's Thoughtseizes. And also, if we are going to go for the Fleshraker plus Mirex game plan to ping the opponent a lot, them taking damage off their own Thoughtseizes is pretty relevant as well. So definitely want to make a Mirex token here. Should ping them with the Fleshraker. But yeah, now the opponent has an Oculus in play, it's going to be a little bit more tricky. Oh, okay. Faceless Agent is perfect. Faceless Agent plus Fleshraker is so nice, because if you chain them together here, we can ping them for a bunch and get a bunch of extra power in play. But, I mean, second Fleshraker is also really nice here. We can also still make a Mirex token here if we wanted to as well. So a lot of direct damage, which is really important on board states like this where we just don't have good attacks. So let's see what the opponent does here. They have a Psychic Frog, so... But they have to be careful, right? If they go all in here, we just have really good attacks. Wow, they do attack with both. I mean, that seems very, very risky from them, unless they have a sweeper here. Which they could do, right? If they have Toxic Deluge, that would be rough. So I think it's worth just cracking these tokens to get, another Mirex token in play. Yeah, okay, opponent just keeps it up, so we got that, nice. Okay, so we're going first here. And, I mean, I think we got to keep this one, right, because of Rumble, but we're very vulnerable to Thoughtseize with this hand, right? We don't have a second colourless land yet for Kozilek's Command, so... Little bit of a speculative one. We basically need to get this Rumble off unless we draw lands here. Okay, we do draw another land, so that's alright. Do we go for... I think we have to go for Wastes here, right? It does mean that we don't have red for Line Breaker, but we do have Mirex here that can do it, and we also find a Stomping Ground off the top. Now, we could have obviously gone for... more gas like the Faceless Agent here, but I think we really want to just keep hitting land drops. Okay, so it looks like we're against Izzet Wizards here, and thankfully we have Kozilek's Command before this Slick Shot Show-Off can really get off the ground, which is really big. And now that we've got Echoes of Eternity, I think we definitely want to be making, tokens here to hopefully ramp us into Echoes to kind of combo kill the following turn. But the really nice thing here is that we have... two Kozilek's Commands here if they do have any more creatures, because if we can keep them off the board, we slow them down so much. And they do have two creatures here, so I don't think it's safe to go for Echoes. We could just be dead if we do that. I think Symmetry Sage plus, especially Slick Shot Show-Off, if they can chain together multiple cheap spells, we're in real trouble. So I'm just trying to think if we have enough mana here to... take out both creatures, which I think we do, and I think that's always the line. I've done this so many times where you just ignore the creatures against wizards and hope that you get there, and then they basically always end up racing them. So it's almost always better to just keep them off the board. So again, I think we just exile and make tokens here. And then this still leaves us with just enough mana to cast Echoes next turn, assuming they're not on main deck Spell Pierce, which very few wizards decks are at the moment, I think. But yeah, we've taken out 3 of their creatures, so hopefully they just start spinning their wheels to find another one. Yeah, okay. Main deck Flame of Anor. And that's another reason why it's important to take their creatures out before their turn, right? So now we can slam Echoes. Don't have to worry about Spell Pierce. Do still have to be slightly worried about Otawara and Sink into Stupor, but I don't think many Wizards deck run the Sink into Stupor, so it would literally just be a one-off Otawara that we're concerned about here. Wow, another Slick Shot Show-Off, but thankfully we're still at 15 here, which is huge, right? Okay, Hymn to the Ages X equals... Well, not X equals... Intensity 1, which is, not a concern at the moment anyway. And they get in for 6. But yeah, we should just be good here. Right, we've got the Line Breaker. Oh, and we got Mica Spawn, so now we can get, another red source, potentially. Or I guess the most important thing here is getting Eldrazi Temple. We can get Eldrazi Temple and potentially another red source, but that won't allow us to cast both of the line breakers here. But getting the Micah Spawns in play is huge, so just to ensure that these line breakers are lethal. And since they haven't got any blockers, I think it's safer here to just buff everything, right? We don't have to worry about them chump blocking. So yes, getting game 1 against Wizards is absolutely huge, because it is definitely a tricky matchup, especially when we don't have the shover sides in. So post sideboard, even though Echoes did win us that, I mean, I think I'm probably supposed to cut Echoes there, but I don't know. I'm cutting the Rumbles because they do also have quite a lot of interaction themselves, so there's a chance they keep the Fleshraker Linebreaker off the board with their removal, so maybe we need Echoes to combo kill in this matchup. I'm still not 100% sure on that. I do think it's pretty close, and it could be correct to just cut the Echoes, because I do feel like this is a matchup where if we can keep them off the board, we've got a really good chance of our fair game plan just beating theirs. But with Hymn to the Ages, they also have a pretty good fair game plan if the game goes long as well, so yeah, not 100% sure. I think there's good arguments for both sides, and once I've played the matchup a little bit more, I should have a better understanding of that. Okay, so they lead on Soulscar Mage. I really don't want to shock myself with Stomping Ground if I can avoid it here. So we could have obviously shocked in the Stomping Grounds and then had Utopia Sprawl available, but I don't know, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to lead on the Linebreaker here because if they have... I think they're more... Okay, they got Consign. I was going to say if they have burn spells, they're more likely to have 2 damage burn spells up here with, you know, Ribald Shanty. They don't have enough mana for Wizard's Lightning, so I think it's just safer generally to go for Linebreaker there because it's much more likely to survive the turn. Here I think the turn kind of plays itself. I do, you know, to get a Utopia Sprawl in play, it's worth taking the 2 off the Stomping Grounds here. But I am a little bit concerned they've got the Arcanists. Okay, they do have Flame of Anor, which is obviously rough, but it does mean they don't have anything in the graveyard to flash back with the Arcanist, which is also nice for us, I guess. Wow, we're really flooding out here. That's pretty unfortunate. So we'll put on red, and then I think we just jam the Fleshraker. There's a chance we're maybe supposed to hold it in case we draw an Echoes here, but not 100% sure. And also, you know, we do have to be worried about Consign to a certain extent, right? So there is a risk to holding on to Fleshraker here. So really hope they don't have a way to buff the Arcanist here. Okay, that doesn't look like they do, but now they have teachings in the graveyard that they can flash back with the Arcanist, so we really want to find... I think Kozak's Command would definitely be the best draw that we can find here, right? Takes out the Arcanist and draws a bunch. I mean... Actually, yeah, I'm not supposed to gem out the Fleshraker here because they have Ribald Shanty they can flash back. But I think from this point, we're really in a bad position anyway, right? We've flooded out very, very badly this game, so... Yeah, I think we're probably supposed to hold on to Fleshraker here, but I think we're likely dead either way, so... So that was obviously a little bit rough, but we did draw a lot of lands that game, so... I think I'm going to run it back because we were in a situation there where Echoes would have been a good top deck. So, yeah, I'm still not 100% sure the best way to sideboard in this matchup, but... After how last game played out, I'm leaning slightly more towards Echoes. Okay, this hand is great. You know, double Eldrazi Temple with Kozak's Command on the play is huge because if they just run out of creature on turn 1 here, we can obviously K-Command, remove the creature, and set up for turn 3 Echoes of Eternity. So, again, you don't want to be too influenced by what happens in specific games because, you know, you could sideboard badly and the cards that you keep in by mistake can still be good in certain situations, so... they do Spell Pierce the Command, which is a little bit rough. Even though there's we are likely going to go for Echoes next turn, and this gives them a target for the Ribald Shanty. Yeah, I think that was probably a mistake on my part. I think I'm probably supposed to hold on to the Echoes. I was just about to justify it by saying that, you know, we don't want to just do nothing for the turn, really. And, you know, Fleshraker needs another card to go off under Echoes anyway, but since they did have red mana available... Oh, okay, Face Agent is perfect. Yeah, since they did have red mana available, we're probably supposed to just hold on to the Fleshraker there, but I think it's pretty close. But yeah, either way, jam the Echoes. I was going to say we really have to hope they don't have another Spell Pierce or Consign, but they've already used one of each, right? So we should be good on that. And then now we should be alright because, well, I guess if they draw a Consign here, that could be tricky because if we cast a Faceless Agent, then the copy trigger goes on the stack straight away, so they then have to... If they have Consign, they can counter the creature and the copy through Echoes as well. But I think we should just be good here, right? You know, there's a very, very good chance that we find Linebreaker here. So we're going to run out the Faceless Agent here. We get 4 looks for Linebreaker. And we're still at 15, so even if we don't find it, I think we should be alright. We do find Linebreaker, so that should just be it, right? Now we can just run out the Linebreaker. I mean, we could have even gone potentially, you know, Myca Spawn into Linebreaker, but we don't need to do that here. We have way more than lethal already. So yeah, we end up getting there, which feels, you know, always feels good against Wizards, which is typically a pretty tricky matchup for Eldrazi. Okay, so we're on the play here. And obviously a little bit awkward. We don't have a Forest for Utopia Sprawl, but having Eldrazi Temple here is absolutely huge, right? It enables us to go Agent on 2, Myca Spawn on 3, which is really big. We are against a Lurrus deck here, though, so I think against Lurrus you either need interaction or a fast start. We do have a reasonable fast start, right? This on the play is a definite keep. On the draw, then maybe, but I still think with Eldrazi Temple we've got a decent start here. And we do find a Forest for Sprawl, which is nice. So Giver of Runes, I mean, almost certainly going to be against Auras if I had to guess here, but there's still a chance it could potentially be Val combo as well. But the pathway is the main telling thing for me. I don't think Val would run pathways. Wow, they sheltered on the Giver. Do they just keep a hand with just Giver? Because Faceless Agent definitely isn't a card you should really prioritize, you know, answering here, I don't think. So I think we're definitely just going to get another Eldrazi Temple here. Obviously, we do need red mana for the Linebreaker, but we've got Utopia Sprawl and Mirrex, which can produce red, so not really a concern. Okay, they do have an Esper Sentinel. Kind of odd they chose to put the Sheltered by Ghost on the Giver to take out the Faceless Agent, because I think if it was... Sorry, I just want to think about what I'm doing here. Yeah, you think they probably just run out the Sentinel and hold the Sheltered by Ghosts for like a, you know, something else. Oh, okay, interesting. So, I think we probably want to go crack the Vista for another Forest so that we can get the Sprawl in play and not lose out on any mana here. And then we get a permanent red source so we don't need to worry about, you know, needing one of these Mirrexes untapped. Just trying to think about which of these two I want to play this turn. So yeah, we'll Sprawl here. And I think we want to obviously pay because we still have enough mana here to go for either of the 3 drops. And I think I'm going to go for Linebreaker first here just to start applying pressure. Because Fleshraker also does do that via the pings, but we already have enough mana here. I think, you know, generally you want to go for Fleshraker early, well, you know, before you've already started playing your other colourless cards so that you can turn it into a source of additional ramp once you get it down. Whereas now I think we just want to start applying pressure. It looks like they don't have a Spirit Dancer or Light Pause from how they've played it, so... And again, if they choose to load up the Esper Sentinel here... Oh, okay. They had a second Sheltered by Ghost. That makes a bit more sense now. So they can start, you know, getting life back off these Sheltered by Ghosts here. But Myca Spawn is a very nice one. So I definitely want to get Fleshraker down here just to start pinging the opponent. And then we can go Myca Spawn, kick, take out the Sunbaked Canyon, which... you know, they could obviously use to dig towards one of their 2 drops, which I see the only way they can really get back into the game by doing that now. Well, I guess Ethereal Armor on Esper Sentinel could also be a little bit tricky, but... And then I think we'll get another Murex here, right? We already have more than enough mana for anything else, and especially with Fleshraker in play, we can use that as additional bodies to start applying pressure, kind of force them to hold these creatures back, right? If they start attacking with the lifelink creatures, then that leaves them vulnerable to us attacking the following turn, obviously. And if it is kind of a stalemate where neither player is happy attacking, we can just start producing Murex tokens every turn, get an extra body in play, and start pinging the opponent as well. Okay, there's another Ruckus, but they still don't really have great attacks here, I don't think. Unless they can give Esper Sentinel protection from Colorless to attack in, which is one of the main reasons Giver still sees play over Mother of Runes in the current metagame, but they're just dead on the crackback, right? Well, they are with the Murex tokens, at least. Because they go down to 1 here with what we've got on board, but maybe they don't realise that Murex will trigger Fleshraker. I guess they could also have interaction here, right? Maybe Fragment Reality, but very uncommon for Wizards to run that in the main deck at the least. So they've obviously got something here, but I imagine if it's in the main deck, it's a Shard Mage's Rescue rather than a piece of interaction here. So put them down to 1. And I think we should be alright here. Even if they do have a piece of interaction to kill the Fleshraker here, we still have another Murex activation up. But looks like we should get it here, right? Yeah, okay, sweet, we did. So, Auras is a tricky matchup, so getting to get game 1 is always absolutely huge. Definitely want the Shover Sides for sure, and then I think it's between the Echoes and the Rumble. I think it's just Echoes, right? I think against a deck like Wizards, there's an argument to keeping the Echoes in because they also have a reasonable way to grind into longer games, whereas both Auras and Val combo, if you can keep them off the board, then your fair game plan is more than good enough to beat them, especially against Auras, right? If you can keep Auras off the board, their deck literally does nothing, so this is a snap keep for sure, right? We have double Eldrazi Temple. Don't have a red source, don't have a Forest for Sprawl, but, you know, we can get Fleshrakers down, and we also have Dismember live, which is huge as well, right? If this hand didn't have Dismember, then it's a lot more sketchy. Okay. So, this is an awkward spot. I think the opponent's played this pretty well, because if they have a 2-drop, then they're obviously going to punish us for tapping out here. Because they could play Spirit Dance or Light Pause plus an Aura and get it out of range. Or they could obviously have a Protection Aura here as well. So I think here we want to go Micah Spawn for sure. 1 mana off, kicking it obviously, but this does enable us to get either Linebreaker or Fleshraker in play and still have mana up for Dismember. But I am still, you know, we've had a good start here, but I'm still concerned, you know, the opponents played it well. They obviously had the Light Pause. They wait until they can protect it. If they do have Shard Mage's Rescue here, then we're in trouble. And I don't think we want to do it this turn. I'm definitely going to attack here, right? Because I would love them to block Shard Mages in response, and then we can Dismember in response to that. But I think we have to... I mean, maybe we're supposed to upkeep the Dismember in case they drew Shard Mage's Rescue, but I'm pretty sure they have it here. Yeah, so we're forced to go for Dismember now, but from how they've played, holding up that white mana last time makes me think they have to have Shard Mage's Rescue. And if they do, I think there's a reasonable chance we're just dead here, which is rough. Yeah, there's the Shard Mages. So we really needed another piece of removal here to do it. But yeah, opponent just holding their Light Pause back for turn 3 was definitely a good line. Yeah, so now they give it flying. Now, if they have another 1 mana Aura, they can get Ethereal Armor, and then... I mean, obviously it depends what that 1 mana Aura is, but I think there's a reasonable chance that we die here. Yeah, okay, there is the Ethereal Armor. Wow, they had a second one. Okay, yeah, that does it. That was pretty unlucky because they needed to have Ethereal Armor in hand to kill us this turn. but, you know, Auras has some crazy burst turns, so shipping it back, I don't think there's much more we can do in terms of sideboarding. We do have a lot of interaction now. The awkward thing about Side is it is sorcery speed when we're on the play, but, you know, being on the play is a really big advantage in this sort of matchup anyway, so I don't think that should really end up mattering too much. Although, again, if the opponent plays like they did last game, where they hold their 2-drop till turn 3 to protect it with Shard Mages Rescue, then we're in trouble. But that relies on them having Shard Mages and a 2-drop, which they're not going to have every hand, obviously. So obviously keeping a 1-lander is always risky, especially when we have Kozilek's Command and no colour source. But we do have Sprawl, and we do, more importantly, have Mycah Spawn, which can find Eldrazi Temple in order to get Kozilek's Command online. Plus we have Side and Dismember here, so I think we should be pretty good. Okay, they plot Ruckus, which is kind of rough. So I think we just Rumble here. I mean, thankfully we have Dismember. Okay, we don't find a land, but we do find a good selection of Eldrazi here. Just trying to think which is more useful out of Fleshraker and Linebreaker here. And I think Fleshraker probably. Because obviously Linebreaker can be stonewalled if they get a creature in play. And then we do want to, you know, start utilising these Kozilek's commands. And having more mana is very useful. Okay, so they do have the Light Pause. Presumably they use the Ruckus. Yeah, okay. Because from the opponent's perspective, they only get punished by Dismember here because we only have green mana available. So thankfully we had it though, which is huge. Oh wow, and an Eldrazi Temple. Okay, now we can kick the Mycah Spawn. Remove one of their lands. So if they kept a 2-lander, they might just not be able to cast another 2-drop even if they have a... Yeah, okay, opponent just keeps that up. So we got that nice. Okay, so we're on the play here. And a little bit awkward here because presumably we crack the Vista for a Forest for Utopia Sprawl, and then we don't have a colorless mana. We don't have colorless mana for Linebreaker, but you know, as long as we draw another land in the next 2 turns, we can go Sprawl 1, Faceless Agent on 2, Mycah Spawn on 3, get an Eldrazi Temple, have Dismember up, and then have access to Linebreaker the following turn. Plus, obviously, Faceless Agent will tutor another Eldrazi that we can hopefully cast the same turn to get him for a lot of damage. So I think this hand's fine as long as we draw another land in the next 2 turns, which is pretty likely. Right, we're running 23 lands. Plus, we have cards that can dig for lands, right? We have Malevolent Rumble that can get there as well, hopefully. So yeah, I think we should be fine here, right? So opponent obviously in the tank about their mulligan, but yeah, this hand should be alright as long as we can find one other land at the very least. And then obviously if we do happen to top deck a colourless land, we can potentially just slam a Linebreaker on turn 2, which is obviously even better than Faceless Agent. Okay, so opponent mulls 2/6 and they have a Devourer, so an Eldrazi mirror match of some sort. So we'll Sprawl. I think we'll go for red here. Maybe we're supposed to go for green because we already have a basic mountain. You know, there is a chance that we'd maybe want to cast multiple green spells in the same turn. Probably more likely than multiple red, but I don't think it really ends up mattering here. Okay, we do find the colourless land off the top, which is huge. So now we can just slam Linebreaker and just get in for a ton of damage here. And that is a big deal because, you know, if the opponent is playing... Well, because of Devourer, I assume they're playing more a ramp-focused one. Applying pressure early and just trying to get underneath the opponent is a really good way of... You know, just not being reliant on echoes in these sorts of matchups, right? Because that's the other really nice thing about this particular build of the deck. You can go both underneath Eldrazi ramp with, you know, your Linebreakers and your Fleshrakers, especially if you're on the play, or if the game does go long, you can kind of combo with the Echoes of Eternity if the opponent does get a foothold in the game. Wow, double Labyrinth, and they do have 2 cards to imprint, so pretty scary start from the opponent. Okay, Eldrazi Temple's a nice draw for sure, but it is a little bit awkward that they presumably have Kozilek's Command here, which means they're going to have a crazy amount of mana going into their turn 3. But having said that, so will we now, and we can play the Faceless Agent here as well. So that Eldrazi Temple was a really nice draw here. but the opponent is going to have a lot of mana going into next turn. Plus, we know they have top end under these labyrinths as well, even if they don't have stuff in hand. So yeah, they go for the Kozak's command. See what we find off the Faceless Agent here. Okay, Fleshrake is nice in this, well, just in general in Eldrazi mirrors. And then I think we'll buff the Mycospawn Spawn to try and bait them into blocking here. Just means they have, you know, slightly fewer, well, less mana this turn. So they would need another, I was going to say they would need another Temple or another Imprinted Labyrinth to go for a 7-drop here. Okay, they do have kicked Mycospawn Spawn. Yikes, and they do take out our only green source here, which is potentially a concern depending on what we draw. Thankfully, we have a backup red source, so if we draw another line breaker here, we should be alright. Okay, and we find a Mirex, which does give us access to green mana, potentially. But yeah, we can just take out the Mycospawn Spawn with Dismember here, give the Fleshrake a haste, and then we just kind of win out of nowhere, which is sick. So I managed to go underneath the opponent there, which is absolutely huge. Sideboarding here, I mean, it doesn't look like they're on Fleshraker or Linebreaker, so I think this is a matchup for Stone Rain. And by having said that, there's a chance they're on Sire of Seven Deaths, where we might want Dismember as a way to kind of shrink it and eat it as a combat trick, because I mean, I was going to say, you know, Sire can be a problem if we're reliant on Linebreaker to get there, but you can beat Sire with Echoes into Fleshraker fairly easily. Not to mention, if you do have Echoes and you just get a bunch of creatures in play, I have just eaten it in combat by blocking with 14, you know, toughness worth of creatures, and just that is obviously a bad exchange, but it just clears the way to allow you to attack him. But again, we haven't seen Sire from the opponent yet. Most of the Simic builds I've seen, if they are running Sire, is usually only as a 1 or 2 of, so I still think Stone Rain is potentially the better card, but if Torpor starts seeing more play, which some Simic builds are running, some even in the main deck, then it's probably worth looking at some kind of artifact or enchantment removal. I think Thief of Existence is likely the best option there, because it's also good against Goblin Bombardment, it's also good against Affinity, and it can be cast on turn 2 off Eldrazi Temple. I guess the only concern with that, though, is that it makes Faceless Agent slightly less consistent as a combo win under Echoes, because now you have another 4 of that you could potentially find instead of Linebreaker, right? So they go for Rumble, and they have a Eldrazi Temple in hand, so I mean, ideally, I would like them to have played Eldrazi Temple so that we can hit it with a Stone Rain. I think we just have to go for Stone Rain here, though, right? Stone Rain is just, you know, the longer the game goes on, the worse it is. And doing this on the Breeding Pool cuts them off access to blue mana, which could, you know, be very big if they have Consigned to Memory, or even, you know, Null Drifted this early in the game. They do have Thought Not Seer, but, you know, we've got a pretty stacked hand, so I don't think that's really doing all that much right now, anyway. If I was the opponent, I'd probably take the Mycospawn Spawn here, because we have multiple Kozak's command. Wow, they take... Okay, that's a surprise. I'm very happy to see that. Now we can just jam the Mycospawn Spawn, get Eldrazi Temple into play. Now we have Echoes as well, and Echoes plus Kozak's command is really nice as well, because you can choose, you know, it basically just doubles it up. And yeah, the Stone Rain's putting in work here, right? Opponent obviously just doesn't have any more lands. They cracked their Eldrazi token to cast the Thought Not Seer, so if they keep missing land drops, we're just going to be golden here, right? We've got Kozak's command, sorry, which we can, you know, just go make a bunch of tokens and scry draw twice, keeping the red mana open for potential Linebreaker off the top. And that should just do it. And if the opponent's just stuck on 2 lands here, there's nothing they can really do. Especially because, you know, we've cut them off blue mana as well. There's a chance they have Consigned to Memory in hand, which would be, you know, not super effective now we've got the Echoes in play, but, you know, still slows us down a fair bit. Okay, so they do have Talisman, so now they do have access to Consign. But I think we just go for the Kozak's command now anyway, because if they don't have Consign, I think we've got a very good chance of just winning the game. So I want to make sure that we keep red mana available here, because if, you know, we want to be able to draw Linebreaker to combo kill here. And I guess if they do have consign, they can only stop one of these, right? If they had consign replicate, they could obviously shut off both, but we still get the copy here, which is really nice. Ooh, and we find another Stone Rain. I think we just top that. And then just Stone Rain the Eldrazi Temple here. And now next time we can just go for Faceless Agent. Yeah, okay, opponent just scoops it up. So we got there, nice. Okay, so we're going second here. And, I mean, this is close maybe, but I think we've got to ship this one back, right? Okay, this one's much better, right? We've got Eldrazi Temple, we've got the colours we need. We can go Flesh Raker 2, Mica Spawn 3, or Line Breaker into Mica Spawn. Okay, so opponent is on Thoughtseize, but thankfully we've got pretty good redundancy in our hand right now, so not massively punished. I presume, well, I personally would not want them to take Mica Spawn, but just because it interrupts our curve a little bit. Okay, they take Flesh Raker, which is interesting. Makes me think they might just have an answer for Line Breaker already. Oh, wow. Second Thoughtseize and we've drawn another land is pretty rough here. So interesting choice for the opponent here, where they want to cut us off a card next turn, which they choose to go for here. Okay, just remember not exactly what we want here, but at least we can hold it up. Looks like they're on Jund, so almost certainly going to be on the Goyf package. Okay, there's Crucius, so having an answer to that is absolutely huge, right? Cuts them off the ramp, cuts them off the fixing, cuts them off potentially tutoring for Pyrogoyf, and then, wow, Echoes off the top is absolutely huge. Again, we really have to hope they don't have another Thoughtseize here. And I'm going to go for Murex because we already have enough mana in hand for the Echoes. We don't need another Eldrazi Temple here. And getting utility lands in against Jund, which is, you know, well, it's already kind of devolving into like a grindy, attrition-based matchup here, right? So I really hope they don't have another Thoughtseize here. Because if we can get Echoes down, you know, we've got such good potential top decks off the top. Basically any creature, and we're just, you know, massively going to pull ahead. Wow, okay. Vista for Forest. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't pitch a land if they've only got 2 cards left in hand. Unless they do want to tutor for Pyrogoyf. Yeah, okay. They pitch Pyrogoyf, tutor for Pyrogoyf. Which is going to start presenting a clock, right? So we do need to try and find gas for the Echoes pretty quickly, I think. And then I think I'll attack here. Maybe that's greedy, but I feel like the only way we're going to win this is if we draw a colourless card pretty soon. And if we do, we want to be applying pressure. So I think we're playing to our outs by attacking here, right? Having said that, we do know they've tutored Pyrogoyf and they are going to attack, you know, with the Crucius, but they could obviously kill the Mica Spawn with the Pyrogoyf, which is another reason to go for it. Okay, we get to blank a Thoughtseize, so got to hope to draw well. But again, you know, the issue with running Thoughtseize decks is you can't beat top decks, and we're set up to top deck here. We have so many good cards. Oh, wow. I was just about to list them all off. Kozilek's Command is gas here. You know, once they've got 2 creatures, if you can take out both, that's huge. So we definitely want to exile and scry draw here. And then we can take out both the Pyrogoyf and the Crucius. And I think we'll just go max X value. I don't think without producing the spawn tokens, we're pretty unlikely to be able to cast something that we draw this turn. Wow, okay. All gas on top. Love to see that. So I think we just want the Line Breaker and the Flesh Raker here. And then we should just be good to win next turn, right? Even if they have a Thoughtseize, we should be pretty good. And we get to set up again, right? I think we can set it up like that. And then we're basically guaranteed. Even if they Thoughtseize the Flesh Raker, we can go... Or, well, regardless of what they Thoughtseize, I think we should just be good to win here, right? Now we just go Flesh Raker into Line Breaker, and we should win off the pings without even needing to get the haste online here, right? Now we produce a ton of tokens, we ping them, you know, 4 each. So yeah, end up getting there, which is really nice. Now, having said that, they do have a pretty big advantage post sideboard. Well, mid-range decks in general do, because they can pivot better than we can, because they're quite low synergy. But, you know, like you saw last game, they rely pretty heavily on Thoughtseize, and we do have a lot of good top decks. I also think Faceless Agent is pretty effective in this matchup as well, because it gets us on the board and, you know, pulls us ahead in terms of card advantage as well. So I'm just going to ship it back. This member also very good in this matchup, as we saw last game. Taking out Crucius is very important. Taking out Pyrogoyf and Barrogoyf is obviously going to be important as well. So this is a keep, and we can put back the Utopia Sprawl here because we don't have any forests. Okay. Interesting. So I think we just dismember here, right? We could obviously go Mirex or Vista into our own Hierarch, but since we have Eldrazi Temple here, we don't need the Hierarch to cast our 3-drops next turn. So doing this just slows them down a bit. Okay, they got birds as well. So I'm just trying to think whether we want to go for Fleshraker or Linebreaker here. I think I prefer Linebreaker slightly, although actually with Echoes in hand, I mean, it's close. I think I'm going to go for the Linebreaker here just to start applying pressure. But with Echoes in hand, yeah, I think that might have been a slight mistake, actually. Maybe we're supposed to go for Fleshraker first, because then when we cast the Linebreaker, we get a spawn token which gets us closer to Echoes. There is Pyrogoyf though, so it didn't end up mattering, really. Okay. So we're definitely going to go Hierarch here, and then I think we just go for Fleshraker, and then next turn, if we draw land, we can just slam Echoes. And even if we don't, we can go Linebreaker, get a token to hopefully go for Echoes next turn. Okay, so they take out the... Wow, they can take out both creatures. Double Pyrogoyf is brutal. Yikes. Now we're in trouble. Oh, okay, and now we're getting punished for... Yeah, I was thinking, you know, back on the Linebreaker turn, whether we should have gone Mirex to produce red. Yeah, okay, so we end up losing this one. Whether we should, if we'd gone Mirex, produce red, and then cracked the Vista for green for the Ignoble Hierarch, then we would have had green in play for Micah Spawn. But again, if we'd drawn a Linebreaker off the top and we'd done that line, we would have been cut off red mana as well. So, you know, it's always difficult to assess whether something was a misplay or not based on what actually happened, because there are obviously other top decks that would have punished us for taking the other line as well, so tricky to say. But going into game 3 on the play, just really hope we get a good 7 so that we are, you know, slightly insulated against Thoughtseize. Yikes, I think we've got to ship this one back. We just can't cast anything currently. This isn't amazing, but I think we can keep it, right? We got Rumble on 2, Agent on 3, or, well, hopefully Micah Spawn on 3. So play the Stomping Ground and just hope the opponent doesn't have Thoughtseize here. Okay, looks like they don't, so we get to get off Rumble here. Going to play the Wastes first, just in case we draw a Kozak's Command. Interesting choice here. I think it's between Fleshraker and Micah Spawn. I think since we already have a Micah Spawn, I'm going to go for Fleshraker here, because if the opponent had Thoughtseize, they would have cast it last turn. So the only way we're losing the Micah Spawn here is if they top deck Thoughtseize exactly this turn, right? I guess they could also have a Fatal Push to cut us off 4 mana here, right, if they just kill the Spawn. But even then, you know, they know we have Fleshraker here, so I don't know if that really benefits them too much. Okay, Rumble of their own. Presumably get Crucius here, yeah. So they ship it back. That does allow us to get off Micah Spawn here, which is huge. And Utopia Sprawl, that's essentially free ramp here, right? So put that on, pick red here just so we have backup for red mana. And then we can go Micah Spawn, get an Eldrazi Temple. And then, you know, next turn, even if we don't draw anything, we can go Fleshraker into Agent, which is kind of nice because we can chain Agents together pretty nicely with Fleshraker. And then obviously if we find another Fleshraker or a Linebreaker, we're pretty good. Okay, there is Crucius. No Pyrogoyf this turn, which is very nice. But we do have to be wary of Fatal Push with Revolt because of the treasure token here. Okay, so they do tutor Pyrogoyf by the looks of things, but we're definitely going to run out both Fleshrakers here, because even if they have Pyrogoyf to kill one of them, having one of them will be huge. Okay, opponent is pausing here. Makes me think they must have Fatal Push. Yeah, okay, they cracked the token for black. Fatal Push the Flesh Raker. Now we could be in trouble because we know they got Pyrogoyf, so they're likely gonna take out the Flesh Raker here. I'm still gonna attack because I feel like we need to be on the front foot. But maybe that's a little bit greedy. Maybe we're supposed to hold it back, stop them getting in with the Crucius. Yeah, there's the Pyrogoyf, so that's going to take out the Flesh Raker. And yeah, since we knew they had the Pyrogoyf, maybe attacking is greedy there. But we're still at 20, right? They're down at 14, so... And we still have a lot of good top decks. Echoes with Faceless Agent in hand is huge. Kozak's Command would be great here as well. Wow, okay, Echoes is huge. So yeah, we go for Echoes. And then as long as we can survive this turn cycle and they don't have Thoughtseize here, I think we're actually... Well, we're very likely to win. Because we go Agent into Line Breaker, hopefully, and then that will just win us the game. And we've got a very, Agent gives us 4 looks. Oh no, they found the Thoughtseize. Yikes. I mean, we still got a decent number of top decks, right? Kozak's Command, Faceless Agent, Line Breaker, Flesh Raker. So, not completely out of it, but we're having to rely on top decks. Wow, another Pyrogoyf, though. This is getting dicey. So now they can take out both our creatures. Get in for 8. So we need a good top deck here, but again, that's the risk. The risk of running Thoughtseize decks is you are super vulnerable to good top decks. Okay, so they found another Pyrogoyf. Oh, Line Breaker. Is that enough though? They've got 7 toughness with blockers. We get +3/+3 4 times. Well, I'm just sending in here. See if it adds up. So we've got 18 power. Oh, we're 1 short. I mean, to be fair, we did obviously get lucky to get the Line Breaker in the first place, but they also got reasonably lucky to get the Thoughtseize on the Agent, so... Yikes. And yeah, we know they've got the other Pyrogoyf, so... And yeah, so blocking with the... I think it was correct to attack, but... Yeah, that was good games, but very, very close there. Okay, so we're going second here. And I can't keep this one. Just don't have enough. Well, we don't have anything before turn 3. Can keep this one though because of Eldrazi Temple. Right, we got, Rumble on 2. Almost certainly Mighty Spawn on 3. And then, Mighty Spawn kick on 4. Oh, okay. Flesh Raker's a nice one as well. So probably going to go for Flesh Raker 2, Mighty Spawn 3, which is a really nice curve. Although, there's Peddler. I mean, thankfully we have good redundancy here, right? If they take the Flesh Raker, we go for Rumble. And then I doubt they take the Mighty Spawn when we've got 2 of them. Yeah, okay, they do take the Flesh Raker, which makes sense. So now... I mean, I'm going to go for the Vista, but there's a chance... Actually, that was a mistake. I think I'm supposed to go for the Temple there, because... Then if we find another Temple, we could have potentially kicked the Mighty Spawn next turn. So yeah, that was a misplay. Thankfully, we didn't get punished for not doing that, but... Okay, Overlord, interesting. Yeah, okay, so they are on Sorin just using Vein Ripper. And I do think Vein Ripper is actually not bad in the current metagame, right? You're good against the bombardment decks with it. And then, you do punish the Eldrazi decks somewhat because of the spawn tokens from Kozak's Command and potentially, Flesh Raker like we're running as well. So here we can go Mighty Spawn, get an Eldrazi Temple, get a Faceless Agent into play. And then, hopefully we should go over the top of them, right? I think their biggest top end is likely Vein Ripper. And obviously that is good against the spawn tokens, but we've got Line Breaker, which can hopefully go over the top of it. Not to mention we've got Dismember as well. While they attack with the Peddler. I mean, this could be a Toxic Deluge, potentially, but I'm not willing to take... if it isn't Deluge, then it's fine. If it is Deluge, then we're just letting them get in for free damage otherwise. So, yeah, they do have Deluge. Interesting. So we could go just multiple Flesh Rakers, but I think, you know, we should kick the Micah Spawn while they have a Silent Clearing, you know, cuts them off a mana in case they want to potentially hardcast that 5 mana Vampire they've got, right? And then we can still go for either Flesh Raker or Line Breaker here as well. And I think I'm going to go for Line Breaker, you know, just to start applying pressure. And then even if they do go Sorin into Vein Ripper, we can go double Flesh Raker and just start attacking in for a huge amount. Maybe even force the Champ Block with a Vein Ripper. There is another Deluge, but double Flesh Raker is a pretty good follow-up, I think. Yeah, so we go for Flesh Raker here. I mean, obviously if they have another Deluge, that's going to be a little bit rough, but you know, chance of them having triple Deluge in the main deck game 1 is pretty unlikely. Okay, so they just ship it back. I think we're just going to jam the Juggernaut here, right? Triggers the Flesh Raker twice, forces through another 2 damage. Wow, they reprieve the Juggernaut. I mean, that seems great for us, right? We can just instantly recast it, get another 2 pings. That might actually kill them this turn when they weren't dead already. I guess they were dead if they don't have another way to stop us attacking here, but you know, this is potentially puts them dead without even needing to attack. Yeah, okay, opponent just keeps it up. So Orzhov looks pretty similar to the previous builds before, you know, Sorin got nerfed. So I think I'm just going to ship it back, right? The only card I really tend to cut is either Dismember or Echoes. Echoes is great in these mid-range matchups because it just gives you a way to go over the top. And then Dismember, I think, is very important here as well because it can take out Vein Ripper, in addition to stuff like Failure and, you know, the cheaper creatures that they've got. Wow, we're keeping this. Triple Eldrazi Temple, double Faceless Agent is great. Wow, and a Flesh Raker as well. So I was going to put the Stomping Ground in so that we have the option of Rumble, but Triple Temple allows us to cast 2 3-drops on turn 3, which is big. So if this Flesh Raker survives, we can go double Faceless Agent next turn potentially, which is pretty big. Could have Reprieve. Okay, they go for Failure. Interesting. So, I mean, obviously if they go for Overlord, that's not a bad curve out for the opponent, but, you know, we typically will go over the top of that, especially if we have, you know, Flesh Rakers online or we find a Dismember to remove the Overlord. Okay. I mean, I was tempted to block the Failure, but now they've got a backup one. I don't think I will. Especially because we can, you know, essentially produce 2 tokens for free. And then if we don't find an answer, we have chump blockers for the Overlord as well. Okay, there's Juggernaut Peddler. Ooh, Dismember. Okay, that is sick. So now we can go Faceless Agent. Oh, I should have manually tapped the other Eldrazi Temple. Okay, thankfully Auto Tapper didn't mess us up there. So now we go Faceless Agent. Find a Line Breaker, Faceless Agent again. See what we find. And we're getting in for a lot of chip damage as well. Another Agent. Then we can Dismember the Overlord now to allow us to attack in with the Flesh Raker. Put a lot of pressure on their life total. And then next time we can go Faceless Agent into Line Breaker. And, you know, that could potentially be lethal, right? I guess, yeah, they have got Juggernaut Peddler and they can blink it as well. But if they do attack in with the Failure here and blink the Peddler, we can just double block with the Faceless Agent, which I'm pretty happy to do. Even though they've got another Failure in hand, that just leaves them with a pretty subpar board. And obviously with Flesh Raker in play, the Juggernaut is going to trigger the Flesh Raker as well. So we just double block here. We know they don't have any interaction. And then they're just left with a 2-2 in play. They're obviously missing land drops as well, which is great for us, but yeah, I think we're in a great position. I think we should win this one, hopefully. Oh, wow, okay. Echoes off the top is sick. So I think we'll just jam that and then jam the Rumble, and then the token that we get off the Rumble will trigger twice because of the Echoes as well, which is nice. Okay, we get Micah Spawn, and then we can kick that, take out both their lands next turn. So yeah, we should be more than good enough. Not going to attack him with the Flesh Raker here, obviously, but we'll offer the trade with the Agent if they want to take it. Which they probably should, considering they're down at 8. And we have an Echoes in play. Yeah, okay, opponent just scoops it up, so we got there, nice. Okay, so we're going second tier. I mean, I'm going to keep this one because this is a turn 3 echoes, right? Potentially turn 4 triple echoes in play, and then, you know, any colorless creature off the top is absolutely huge. So, okay, Temple Garden Fanatics. It makes me think this could be like old school Devotion with Elishnon potentially. Which is kind of scary. If they can get Karn down, get Haywire Might, take out the Echoes, would be pretty tricky. Okay, there's Scrap Sheets. They take out the Sprawl, but that's still that doesn't cut us off Echoes next turn, right? Because wait, why did they? Surely they should have cast Trailblazer first there, right? And then they would have drawn a card when they cast Scrap Shooter, unless I'm missing something. Yikes, Storm the Festival. Really hope they don't have Karn here. If we can untap with Echoes, then we've got a chance, but they've had a pretty explosive start here. Still have 7 mana available. Wow, second Storm. We might just be out of luck here. Okay, there's Karn. There's Nykthos. Do they get Haywire Might here? Oh, they get a Chroma's Memorial. I mean, that has to be a mistake, right? Wow, second first rake. Okay, we just win then. Surely they have to take out the Echoes. I mean, I guess, you know, this isn't that well, or this variant of Eldrazi isn't very well known yet, but this should just win even from 20 now, right? First Raker under Echoes into another colorless card is just well over 20 damage. Right, each of these spawn tokens that we produce is 4 pings, and then we've still got the Flesh Raker and the copy to come into play, so I feel like if the opponent had gone for Haywire Might there, I don't think there's a way we can win, whereas, yeah, we just kind of stole the game there. So, against Devotion, I mean, there is a debate between Dismember and Stone Rain, but I think as we saw there, Fnatic provides way more bursty turns, and we really want to be able to take out stuff like Outland Liberator to stop them drawing. We want to be able to shrink Cavalier at instant speed as well. I think we've got to ship this one back, just proactively not quick enough. I think we've got to ship that one as well. Wow, okay, going down to 5 is always rough, but at least we've got Sprawl. I mean, we don't have a colourless land, but at least we can go Sprawl. Oh, there's no Eldrazi Temple. I was going to say Sprawl into Rumble to hopefully find a colourless land to unlock our hand a little bit more, but now we've got Temple. We can go either Flesh Raker or Line Breaker depending on what they play here. Okay, there's Utopia Sprawl. Wow, another Utopia Sprawl. Okay, interesting. So we definitely want to go Temple, and I think we go for Flesh Raker here. Because, you know, getting it down early is really nice to get the additional ramp, and also there's a chance they could tap out for something like a Kiora without knowing we've got a hasty trample creature ready to go. Okay, there's Scrap Shooter, and they do take out the Sprawl, which gives us a card. Actually, I'm pretty happy about that. We didn't really need the Sprawl with the Temple here. Wow, okay, even more Sprawls, but I guess that, you know, will unlock more cards as good top decks off the Rumble, for example. And then, I think we'll go for another Rumble here over the Sprawl. The Sprawl will be free to cast next turn anyway. And then, obviously we could not attack with the Line Breaker to hold it for later, but I think I'm going to attack here because taking out the Scrap Shooter makes Nykthos worse. It makes Fanatic of Ronus worse. Nykthos is the main one here, though. I think if we take out the Scrap Shooter and they have Nykthos, they're still getting slight mana advantage, but nowhere near if they had another 2 green pips in play. And now we've got Mega Spawn that can take out that forest that has multiple Sprawls on it. Okay, there's Trailblazer. Let's see what else they've got here. But if they don't have anything crazy this turn, I think we're really limiting their ability to do much the following turn. Okay, they do have another Trailblazer, but we can kick the Micah Spawn here, and then we've got another Micah Spawn to kick again the following turn, so even though they've got double Trailblazer, which is good, I don't know if they'll have mana to cast anything else. And at this point, I don't think we really need another Eldrazi Temple. Thinking about it, I think it's better to just go for Mirrex, and then we have a utility land available, and don't think we need to attack. Obviously, you know, taking out that Trailblazer does limit their top decks, but we can take out their only remaining... Wow, I guess they have another land here, but we can take out another one of their lands next turn and hopefully limit their ability to go off here. Plus, if they do stall the board with these Trailblazers, we will just be dealing chip damage off the Fleshraker, not to mention Micah Spawn attacking in as well. Okay, so they ship it back. Rumble's interesting, but I think we just want to go for Micah Spawn first here. We really want to cut them off mana. Because, you know, double Trailblazer, if they do start unlocking their hand a little bit more, can get them back into the game. But if we just keep cutting them off mana here, it shouldn't really matter. Right, they need the third land to even get the Trailblazers doing anything here, really. Or, sorry, the third mana source in addition to the Birds of Paradise. So I think we crack one of the tokens to go for Rumble here, just in case we find a Line Breaker. Oh, another Fleshraker. I mean, Echoes is pretty tempting, but we don't have anything yet to do with it. Whereas Fleshraker here, even if we draw lands, we can just start activating Mirrex, which deals 2 damage every turn, and now we can get them with Micah Spawn, which kind of, yeah, probably forces them to trade. So now they only have one Trailblazer, which makes it much more difficult for them to get out of this situation. Okay, there's a Nykthos. Let's see what we draw here. Oh, Faceless Agent's really nice. That gets double triggers on the Fleshraker, makes the Faceless Agent essentially 1 mana, and, you know, if we find another Faceless Agent, we probably just can kill them with pings. If we find another Fleshraker, we kill them with pings. If we find a Line Breaker, we kill them with haste. Ah, okay. Micah Spawn's probably the worst one, but still pretty good because we get to take out their Nykthos and deal the last 2 damage, so... Yeah, that Micah Spawn on the lands with Utopia Sprawl was the big turning point here, but... Yeah, I think Devotion should generally be a good matchup as long as they don't have crazy starts like they had game 1. Looks like the opponent might be roping, so I might just edit it out if they are. Okay, yeah, so got through the rope, got through for the last ping, and we got there, nice.